Good afternoon. I pray that yesterday you found places and spaces of joy, of peace, of happiness. Maybe you accomplished something, and that accomplishment can be something big or something small. For some folk who have been isolating in their house due to COVID, the something big could be that you actually made your bed. Um, the something big could be maybe you didn't make your bed. Maybe prior to COVID, you habitually made your bed, but you decided to break the routine, to be flexible, to try something different, to enact a change. Whatever it is that you may have accomplished, no matter how big or how small, maybe as you accomplished eating vegetables, maybe you accomplished doing a short workout routine. Maybe you accomplished calling someone who's been on your mind and you haven't talked to them in a long time. Maybe you accomplished washing your hair or washing clothes or doing whatever it is that brought you joy and was a change. We celebrate change. Change is good because without change, life can be boring. And so as we continue with our talk about change, you've identified something over the next 6 months that you would like to enact, a change you would like to put in place. Yesterday we talked about the negative messages that we give ourselves and how that can impact our decision to make a change. It can kind of set us back. It can make us more pessimistic about our outcome. It can make us less confident about whether or not we are able to make the change. Today, I want to externalize it and look at the messages that we get from naysayers. Naysayers is an old-timey word, and I struggle between saying naysayers or haters, and I chose not to use haters, and I'll explain why. I chose naysayers because, well, let me see why I didn't use haters. So haters kind of has a connotation that the persons who fit that label, if you give it to them, that they're against you, that they don't want the best for you. And that's not necessarily where sometimes our negative messages may come from when we're trying to do a change. Sometimes it's just a naysayer. A naysayer is somebody who has kind of seen you struggle and seen you make up your mind however many times before and not really follow through. A naysayer is someone who may remind you, girl, you done said that before, or bruh, you said that before, and how long did that last? You know, a naysayer can also be someone who, let's say the behavior, and I'll use my own life, when I made the decision to change my relationship with alcohol and drugs, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody because I was my own naysayer. Because every time I had made up my mind I was going to do that, it never lasted. It didn't last even sometimes all day, 24 hours. And so I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want anyone to know how big of a failure I had been. And so, but when I finally, as opposed to telling people, if I was around people who I had been used to drinking or drugging with, and let's say family members, because I have made the conscious decision to not be around friends who did that. But for some family members or family events, you want to go to the event, you just don't want to participate in the way that you used to. And so I would go and they would offer me like a glass of wine, or you want to hit this joint, and I'd say no, and they look at me like, what? Are you sick? What's up with you? And I was too ashamed to be able to say, well, you know, this is a problem for me and I no longer need to do it. So I would say something like, oh, I just don't feel like it. Not today. I'm good. And my naysayers, and they didn't even necessarily know that they were being naysayers, they would say, oh, come on, girl, we celebrating, you know. And that's why I say sometimes naysayers are not intentionally trying to sabotage you. Sometimes naysayers are people who have simply gotten used to whatever old patterns and old behaviors you have been doing. I want to liken it to a couple, and in couples, each person knows how to push each other's buttons. Couples do dances. Each person knows what would make the other happy, what would make them sad, or whatever. And so we begin to fall into these patterns. And the patterns can be good when they're working, but it becomes problematic when the patterns just keep dysfunction happening, when patterns keep chaos going on, where patterns are really challenging you to be your best selves with each other. And I think that that's true even with our relationship with our friends. Now, I'm going to use the example of, for some of you who decide to make the change, to change what you're eating, okay, to change how you eat, to change the quantities of what you eat. And this may not be such a big deal now because we're kind of social ice distancing, but I know you may be able to relate to times in the past where you may have told your friends, you know, I'm doing this thing, I'm changing the way I'm eating, I'm detoxing, whatever. And they say, okay, let's go out and have lunch. And you research and look into, does the restaurant have what I can eat? And you determine that it does, and you get there. And your friends know that you are trying to change the way you eat, but they still try to convince you, hey, have some of these fries. Let's split a dessert. And at that point, you have to determine, how do I address this? How do I address this? Now, some of you church folk may say, get behind me, Satan. And that is a comical way to do it. But another way to do it is to simply say, no, that's okay. I've made this decision of how I want to change my relationship with food. And you go ahead. I'm good. And to continue to remind yourself why splitting this chocolate fudge cake explosion could really be detrimental of pulling you off the path that you've now determined you want to go on, that you want to eat healthier. Sometimes our naysayers, there is some intentionality to sabotage you. And so let's say if you decided the behavior you're going to change is you're going to stop drinking, okay? That you determine that your relationship with alcohol or with drugs is now becoming problematic and it's impacting other areas of your life, and you made that decision. Well, your naysayers now the ones who are intentionally trying to sabotage you, may continue to try to press you to have just one more time. It's not gonna hurt. Isn't this your favorite? Isn't this your drink? Well, I just found this new drink. Just taste it. Their intentions may be underlying because there's a fear for them that you're beginning to change. And that's the point. A lot of times when we decide to change something in our lives, people around us may feel threatened because somehow or the other they believe, if you decide to make this change, what must it say about them? Or if you make this change, what will happen to you all's relationship? If you're no longer willing to go out to eat, or to eat all the fattening foods, or to turn up when we are able to go outside, if you're no longer willing to do that, that may make them question, are they trying to make a statement about me? Because people tend to personalize. When you're doing something for you, somehow or the other, they take it personal. It may force them to look at their own behaviors. And people, as we all know, most of the time we don't want to look at our behaviors unless we have to. So yes, there will be some naysayers who may covertly actually are trying to sabotage you, not because they don't care about you, but they're more focused on how will your change impact them. And what I say to you is to continue to be strong in your resolve. You can even practice. Let's say you can even practice, what your response will be. I like to travel. And a lot of my traveling friends, we're having a difficult time because trips that we've planned have been postponed or canceled due to COVID. And we really, traveling energizes me. I love experiencing new things and new people and new cultures. And so my friends in the travel industry are now sending out things with trips for 2021. And my impulse is to sign up for every trip. But remember I said, I'm changing my relationship with money and me spending money impulsively. And so I'm looking at these trips, and then I close the email, and then I stop and I begin to think, and I give it some time. So you'll be glad to know I haven't signed up for any new trips thus far. 2 that were postponed. Well, 2 that I was supposed to go on have been postponed, and I'm good with that. But I'm trying to practice what I'm asking you to do. And I'm trying to practice on purpose. So just be aware that you may be encountering naysayers as you're trying to do something good for you by changing your relationship with something. But know that you can stand up to your naysayers. You can defeat your naysayers. You can just simply ignore your naysayers. You can even put your naysayers in timeout. Or if you are your worst enemy, put yourself in timeout. You can do it. As I close, I'm very excited because today my website was launched. Yay! So I want to shout out my web designer, a young person who worked with me. Her name is Janice Williams. Hit me up if you need a website design. Very professional. And I have posted a link on the page if you'd like to check it out. If not, fine, that's good also. If you know someone who may want to check it out, thank you so much, and I will talk with you tomorrow. Love you.